It's a top tier
for
picture.
my wedding.
Is it his wedding? Welcome, everybody, to Generation Dan, the podcast where everybody is at different levels of graying hair now for some reason. I'm Atlas Novak. I'm your millennial. Who else is here with me?
I'm Gina, the genetic marvel, and I have less gray hair, but only because I just have less hair now. That's it.
Yay.
That's all.
That's important. John D. Ruddy is back with us. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm enjoying my gingerness and my occasional little grays that are kind of like camouflaged amidst the madness. But every so often, like I'll like have big, long, straggly grays. But you know, I'm all for the aging process.
Oh,
you know,
sure,
this is something I find kind of funny as the years go on. Is like every generation rediscovering the aging process. My back is sore. Like, did you guys know this is a thing?
Yeah.
It's like literally like
or just like
it happens all the time.
It's same thing. Listen, you're in gym class and teacher's like, you gotta stretch, and you're like, okay, I gotta stretch, and then you're like, hey man, I need to stretch like first thing at the beginning of the day, or I might die. Like that's not
once you hit like 25, stretching is done without the jerk off hand motion for the first time.
I gotta do some yoga and things. You're just like
well, one thing is that like I was already schlubby looking when I met my wife, so when I continue to be more schlubby, it's not as much of a problem. Like she's excited for me to need reading glasses. She's like, you're gonna look great in them. I'm like, this is interesting.
Like distinguished.
Yeah.
You need a fake pipe of some sort.
Oh yeah.
Get little circular ones. Gold ridges.
Oh, spectacles. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Gold, like Teddy Roosevelt pince nez.
Oh yes, of course.
With little bifocal drop down, just like if you don't need it, it's right there. Yeah.
Hang on, I'll just click this right in here so I can see what I need to see.
Like I dressed up as him for Halloween one year. That's completely off on the about 5 years ago.
Yeah, he's one of the very few American presidents where you can generally kind of go, I think he was actually relatively decent, actually. Most of them, once you start digging, you're just like, oh no, they were terrible. Oh no, they were terrible. Oh no, they actually owned 600 people. But no, Teddy Roosevelt, one of the good ones, and also the youngest to ever become president.
Was he really?
Yeah. He was 46 or something, but he became president first because William McKinley was shot dead, so he became. He was his vice.
Didn't they put him as his vice because they're like, go away. We don't like when you're vice president, you don't do anything. Just get out of our face.
Probably. I mean, it was a very kind of busy, opinionated. These things need to get done, so they're like, right, go away.
Which is like
it's time, baby. It's time.
Yeah,
that is notoriously not the vice president's job, right? Like, let's be honest. But this was that outfit.
There you go.
Amazing.
Which man,
back at my mom's house. Well, in the early 20th century, was it just like 40 degrees Fahrenheit all the time? Like the amount of sweating I did in that costume was ridiculous. Many layers.
What's 40 degrees in like normal temperature?
Oh, shut up. All right, 40 degrees Fahrenheit. I want to say a little above zero, like because it's about
40 degrees should be like
4.4 degrees Celsius.
4?
Okay.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's cold. Yeah. That's cold, yeah.
No, I think it was just that everyone stunk.
Yeah. Everyone stank.
Yeah. You know?
Wait, because you have to wear a bunch of layers to mask.
No, the best listen, those were your clothes. You didn't have what am I gonna wear today? It was this is what I wear.
Dude, if you were president of the United States, you had a choice.
I mean, probably, but Teddy was a wild
when
man.
He went out riding on those horses.
Yeah.
He was a manly man.
Doesn't he, like, he's one of the first presidents we have like a voice recording of too. And
yes, actually, I think although is it no, I think Andrew Jackson is like the earliest. He wasn't photographed as president, but I think he's the like furthest back president that has been photographed as an old man. But I think it might be Teddy Roosevelt. He gave his name to the teddy bear. Like that's why we call teddy bears teddy bears.
Yeah. Oh, Benjamin Harrison, 1889 is the earliest voice.
Benjamin Harrison. Oh, cool.
Yeah. And that's the only thing interesting about him that we have.
He was the grandson of what's his name?
William Henry.
William Henry Harrison, who was famously lasted 31 days.
Yeah. Because he wouldn't shut the fuck up and go inside. He's like, I need to.
Yeah.
He was the one who had like the 4-hour speech, right? Where he was like, and it was freezing, and you're like, this is a horrible idea.
He's like, I don't need a cold. He was the last president to have been born as a British subject. He was born before. He was a baby during the rev. Also, is it him? Yeah. He has like living. Is it grandchildren or great grandchildren? It's something.
I thought that was John Tyler. Doesn't John Tyler have like?
It's John Tyler. Yeah. That's who it is. Yeah.
Like
who has like living grandchildren? Because like he had children really, really late in his life, then his son had children really, really late in his life, and so like his like literal grandchildren.
Yeah,
as far as I know.
This history fact is brought to you by Viagra.
I mean, listen. Yeah. So that's hilarious because I was going to ask John if he knew anything about this. So my dad is the youngest of 13, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm the youngest of 5, and I'm like, that's the thing is I'm like super generationally displaced, and I feel like that's something that just doesn't really happen anymore, right? Just the size of families are dwindling drastically, so you're not seeing that longevity between.
Yeah, on occasion, I suppose there is. I mean, I think the whole kind of concept of generations is like a very artificial thing anyway. Because when people talk about generations, it's like I have cousins over in America who are more or less my dad's age, but they're technically my generation.
Yeah.
But and yet they're technically boomers.
Well, because there's the generations like you're talking about within families where it's like, cousins, siblings, parents, all that stuff. And then there's the more recent
cultural
generations, which started with like what, the Greatest Generation, the ones that fought in World War II. Or
I think they generally kind of go with that.
I guess
Greatest Generation, and then boomers, and then what do they just like fast forward to Gen X?
Greatest Generation, Silent Generation, which is between them and the boomers. The boomers, Gen X, millennials, Gen Z. And then now Alpha, because they're just starting over.
Gen Beta is gonna love that title.
100%. Oh, can you imagine? Oh my god.
Okay, Beta.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be fun.
I feel like it's such a weird thing to watch generations go through. Like you said, it's like people just rediscover aging again, and you're like, what are you talking like I always find it wild when people are like, have you guys heard about this? And you're like, yeah, when I was about your age, that's when I heard about it. It became relevant to my existence.
Yeah, or there was like the thing where like Paul McCartney was on something with like he like featured on a song, and they're like, oh, they're giving this old guy a chance. It's like, no.
Elton John has been doing stuff with Dua Lipa, and they're like, look at, she's doing charity work for old people. You're like, that's not how that is.
And yet at the same time, it winds me up sometimes, like when people get like too like overly protective over the stuff that they were. Like a big one that I saw going about was like say a couple of years ago when Running Up the Hill, Kate Bush had a whole resurgence because of Stranger Things. And you had all the folks who like grew up in the 80s who were sitting there with like these teenagers going, "Oh my God, there's this great song," and they're like, "Yeah, I know, I listened to it when I was your age." And you're like, "Yeah, cool." And now I'm listening to it too when I'm your age.
See, what I love is that fact that a whole new generation is getting access to songs that like, because I feel like there are a lot of limitations to current music.
I was literally about to say, I was like, especially when today's music is generally shit.
It's so like, even just plain love songs where you're going, it was a great song, like it told a story. And now you hear songs and you're like, these are horrible sentences. You're like, this is not. No one should listen to this.
Okay,
I mean,
admittedly,
said, I mean, there is something to be said about, you know, because I do often find this too, where like, you know, people talk about, say, oh, music of the 80s, where they're like, oh, you know, and like they'll list off all of the classics and they're like, oh, this is great, this is great, this is great. Yeah. But it's like, there was also plenty shit.
Oh yeah.
But we only filter out the good stuff. Yeah. And in the same way, like, I mean, nowadays there are like, I mean, half the stuff Billie Eilish does is excellent and like
fantastic.
And even like, you know, like Dua Lipa and stuff, like some people, oh, it's so commercial. It's like, so it's great. Like Lizzo, great. But or even you know, or people are kind of talking about like, oh, you know, there's no like good protest songs like there were. It's like, dude, did you listen to This Is America? It is like probably
fantastic.
The song of this zeitgeist still, you know.
I mean, like,
captured it in all of the apocalyptic insanity.
Admittedly, protest songs were pretty bad. Like after 9/11, like Waiting on the World to Change. You're like, it's just like, I'm just gonna wait until
put a boot in your ass. It's the American way.
Yeah, awful, just awful.
I mean, you know, it says a lot when it's Green Day who are taking that stand to.
With like Holiday and all that stuff.
Although that being said, I actually went on a real nostalgia trip where I just released, was it earlier this week? What week are we on now? I don't know
anymore. It's June 2nd at the time we're recording this.
Sure. Well, I recently, in a non-disclosed amount of days in the past, I released a 7-hour mega cut of my entire Manny Man Does history on YouTube. I took all of my videos and chopped them up into tiny little pieces. So like, you know, video of the history of Ireland, video of the history of Ukraine, video of World War I, video of French Revolution, chop them up into bits and put them all into chronological order. And it's just this one big long continuum of history. But while I was working on it, while I was editing it, I was like listening to music from the time periods because I always love doing that. You just kind of really getting into it.
100%.
But I got up as far as the 2000s and like all through kind of Bush and the war in Iraq and stuff. And I had System of a Down, Mesmerize on repeat. That was one of the soundtracks of my teenage years, and like I just listened to it and I'm like, this is amazing.
I used to do that when I was in college with like writing a paper or something. I would go in the library, I put a song on repeat, and so A, it was you wouldn't get distracted with whatever it like picking that song, and B, you don't get this song out of your fucking head until you finish the stupid paper. I wrote my final paper in college to I Can't Dance by Genesis just over and over and over.
I actually did that with so it was an essay. So the course was film to a book to film, and it was all about different adaptations, and this was an essay all about how Heart of Darkness was adapted into Apocalypse Now, and I had This Is the End on repeat for about 3 hours while I was in there. I got like top marks on the essay. My lecturer kind of came out to me afterwards. That was a really good essay. I was like, yes,
okay, works. So, but that's a real thing. Is like when you get into that zone, like you just start. Because it's borderline tripping like how it works. Right?
Yeah.
No, so I've been doing a lot of the fasting and stuff like that, and like one guy was like, listen, you getting into that like mantra type state where you just can like function at a higher level of doing weird shit is just like it's escalated when you have the right mix of music. Then like so I'll be like 3 days into a fast, like borderline 72 hours having not ate, only fluids
eaten,
and you're like, oh, you become a maniac about stuff. Like I'll start playing video games and I will just be better than any other time I've played. Yeah, I don't do anything actually productive, John. I don't like educate people. I
nailed that guitar solo in Jordan by Buckethead on Guitar Hero 2.
Air guitar solo. Let's be fair. Yeah. So, but like, it's just one of those things that I find so enjoyable, right? Like that's the weird part is like, I remember, so back in the day when I was uber religious too, was somebody had done the research where you could read the Bible in chronological order as well. And they had gone through and siphoned. So you would go back and forth between books to read it in the same thing where you're going, like, listen, when you read things chronologically, it's very different because you don't realize the shit that's happening at the same time in other ends of the universe, right? Like, Revolution has a weird way of doing that too.
Oh yeah, when I showed Pulp Fiction to my film study class, a big part of it was like, what is the actual order of the movie? And they're like going in, trying to get all the threads right. Okay, so they're in the like post bloody clothes and the sweats in this scene, but in this scene, he's still alive, but in this scene, blah, blah, blah. It's fun.
I actually recut all of, what do you call it? Kill Bill into chronological order.
Nice.
Ooh, that's a good one.
See it all. But interestingly, though, the scene that there were two scenes that I kind of hemmed and hawed about whether or not I wanted to include them there was the Oren Ishii flashbacks in animation, because it's kind of like, I mean, technically, chronologically, they probably are the earliest in the film. Depending on when you think the bride has been trained by what's his name, dude. Oh, his name's left me.
Pepe. Dope.
No, but
wait. I'm just gonna Google it.
Yeah.
Just save the anxiety.
Yeah. Anyway,
Kill Bill Volume 2 is the guy, which was no.
Tony Liu was the guy who played him.
Pai Mei.
Was it Tony Liu?
Gordon Liu.
Oh, it's close. He also played the leader of the Crazy 88s in the first one. Johnny.
Wasn't it that he just made it as a single movie to begin with, and then was like, "This is too long. I need to cut this into two."
I think that's what happened.
I feel like there needs to be more of that shenanigans. Like, people are making movies way too long, and you're like, "Why are you doing that?" So I just watched Furiosa, and I'm like,
I still need to see that.
So Furiosa, let's just start off. Wasn't a bad movie. I'm not saying it was a bad movie, but it's a prequel that gives off mad part 2 vibes. And not like great part 2 vibes. Kind of like you're going, okay, this is kind of all stuff we've already seen. And it kind of already makes all sense.
Oh, because they're like, see, this answers your question from the first one.
You're like, nobody really cared. Like, you're answering questions that's like, yeah, okay, that seems relative. Sure.
Yeah.
But like, is it cool? Sure. Am I going to watch it again? Probably. But
my mom is a big fan of the Mad Max movies, and
of course they're fantastic.
The reason that because she doesn't like action movies, the reason she likes them is she used to be a film editor, and she's like, watch during an action scene, all of the stuff going on goes from left to right.
Yeah.
So your eye is able to follow it instead of things coming in from all directions.
Yeah.
And she's like, that's what makes it such a good action movie or action movie.
Your focal point on the screen is guided very carefully. It's very clever that way.
Yeah. God bless George Miller's wife.
It makes it an easy watch, right? Like it just flows easier. You just right.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's. I feel like this is the weird part about things is that as per the title of the episode is kind of history repeats itself almost guaranteed. Like that is the one like as consistent as change is. The fact that history repeats itself is also factual, right?
I think it's funny that we're also calling the episode "History Repeats Itself" because if you Googled the phrase "history repeats itself,"
this is true.
It's fucking everywhere. Yeah.
Although in fairness, my favorite retort is not my retort, but is classically Mark Twain's retort. Is history doesn't always repeat itself, but it often rhymes.
Oh, that's good. That like is that. Yeah.
Because it doesn't directly repeat itself, but you've got the same themes in
markers. They're check marks. You're like, oh yeah, that happened, then that happened. Then it's the same process, different arena. You know, it's kind of a million different ways to skin a cat. You know, like you could just do it. You can do it the wrong way and still get to the right destination, right?
Yeah.
So,
but the more that was another thing. Kind of as I was editing my 7-hour continuum, is just
masterpiece.
Like, oh my god! Is just kind of seeing these like repeated patterns over and over again, and you're just like, are we just destined to? And like, I really hate fatalism, and I really don't like kind of falling into the kind of fatalist trap of, oh well, you know, it's going to happen anyway. So, but at the same time, it's just kind of like, you know, it's like that bit in Terminator 2. It's like, we're not going to make it, are we? Like people.
100%. Yeah. We didn't have a chance. We didn't even have a chance. Like, I like on some level, it's kind of like, hey, this is the best we got. Just enjoy what you can, right? Like, I don't like there has to be a reason for everything, but I don't think we're qualified to understand it either. So kind of like, I don't
think there's a reason for everything. I think we're just
you don't think so?
No, I'm like kind of one of those mad free will is an illusion kind of dudes where basically everything that is happening is just seriously complex billiard ball physics and chemistry that are just all running off the energy of the Big Bang. And it's but then like kind of whatever we do, well, I mean, like, you know, like, because if you think of time in a way of like it's already written, and it's already there, and it's like, you know, just because you're on page 2 doesn't mean that, you know, page 250 isn't there. You're just not on that page yet.
I'm a firm believer in the idea of something is out there. But I'm like, you can call it whatever you want. I am a firm believer that human is not top of the food chain. Probably not even on this planet. Let's be honest. Like, we're probably not, like, we pay taxes just to exist. That's foolishness. Like, there's a lot of ridiculous things happening, you know? So it's I just recently, my wife has been like, I can't have octopus anymore. I'm like, why? She's like, I have too much respect for the animal. I'm like,
too much respect for the animal.
You're just like, I get it. So there's a recent.
I get it, yeah, but just very strange reason.
Well, there's a recent story about a doctoral candidate who was studying octopus, and he had it, and he would feed it shrimp, and the octopus was in the room across the hall was where the tanks were. So he fed it the shrimp, went back to his office across the hall, went in. Now the octopus came out of his tank, climbed down, crossed the hall, went into the office, threw the shrimp at his screen. So he's typing on his computer, threw it at the screen, landed in front of him. He's like, what the hell? And the shrimp, it was a bad shrimp. He had given him a bad shrimp. Turns around, and the octopus is just looking at him. He's like, all right, fucker. And then went back to his aquarium. And you're going, so This octopus knows full well. He's like, oh, you're studying me. Okay, yeah, that's cool. I'll just hang out. That's fine. But it's like, but I will not be given bad shrimp. How fucking dare you try and give that shit to me?
Is it the same idea where like crows, you can sort of not train them, but
you can communicate.
Yeah, where you're like, here's money, here's
or
food.
You can create an exchange. You can barter with them. Yeah.
If you bring me money, I'll give you food. But if you stop giving them food when they bring you money, they're like, oh, that's how it's going to be?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go Tippy Hedron on your ass.
But also that's where they've even demonstrated how animals how people, but how even animals can develop superstition.
100%. Yeah.
In that way, I think it was pigeons or maybe crows, but I think it was pigeons. They did an experiment where they trained these pigeons that if they press this button, food would come out. Right. And so they, ran it for say a week, and they press the button, food would come out. Press the button, food would come out. But then the following week, they, the details in this are they're probably not 100%, but you get the idea. The following week, they put the machine on random, and so the pigeons are sitting there going, "What did I do to make that food come out?" And so, they were like, "Oh, did I? I think I was tapping my foot when it came out." And so they keep tapping their foot, and then eventually, randomly, it'll come out. The foot worked. The foot worked. I'm just going to keep tapping my foot until it happens again. The foot worked. Yeah. And so they had all of these pigeons developing all these weird twitches where they're twisting their head or tapping their foot or flapping their wing or whatever they happen to do. And it's just that thing of the same way, why do we do what we do? It's like, oh, you don't put new shoes on a table. Why? Why? It's bad luck. We don't.
I never heard that one.
Yeah.
Okay, but okay. Think about where John is, and you're like, okay, there is a lot more superstition than we. Greeks have a lot too, but I'm like, but my parents shielded us from that. They're like, that's not important. Don't worry. Just live your life.
If you ever come home, with brand new shoes, you don't put them on a table. Why? It's bad luck. So the original idea of that was, say, 100 years ago and more, new shoes were covered in mercury for polishing. And so you don't put new shoes on a table. But so often in society, we lose the reason why we do things.
Yep.
But we just do them. Why do we do that? We just do. That's why there was that thing. Was it in Finland where there was a huge nuclear waste disposal vault where they were basically trying to work out. Look, if people are to find this place in 10,000 years, how are we to communicate with them not to go in here? Because if they're as curious as us, they're gonna be like, "Oh wow, is this cool? Some ancient pharaoh from the year 2003?"
Right.
And let's go find out. And then they go and irradiate themselves, and so they're like, "How do we warn?" And so eventually the concept was they actually had a folklorist who said, if you want a message, because the thing is, writing could well change in 10,000 years.
100%.
Change in 10,000 years. But they're like, but if you want an idea to last, to linger, make it folklore, make it superstition. And those superstitions will linger in the backs of people's minds. And so they're like, make up a superstition about glowing cats or something. It's like, oh, it's bad luck. If you see glowing cats, it's bad luck. Right. Why? I don't know. I don't care. It's just bad luck. Stay away from them. That's even what we do.
The whole black cat equals witch thing is black cats go missing at Halloween to this day, hundreds of years later. Adopting a black cat, be like, keep your cats inside because they will get picked up by someone, killed by someone.
Jim Eaton says, I believe octopi. It is octopuses, by the way.
It is octopuses,
yeah. There's a whole argument about this because it's a Greek derivative. Yeah.
If they're from another planet, I'm pretty sure the mantis shrimp came with them. the rainbow thing with like the shotgun blast for a punch. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
listen,
like one of the fastest things in
the
Animal Kingdom. Let's go.
And it's animated in some, I forget which movie, but there's the shrimp, and he's like, he becomes a boxer, and he's like, you can't. He'll take you out.
You can't catch these hands.
Yeah, it was great.
Brilliant.
But like that's the thing is that it makes you wonder, right? Because realistically, like I don't believe in evolution. I don't. I believe that mankind has evolved. Okay? Hold on now. But I can't, like, there's too many gaps in it where I'm like, it's too perfect of a series of events that have worked out. It really
isn't, though.
But it is.
It really isn't.
But it is. Look, the chances of life, look, we haven't found anything else. That's a wild thing, right? Like, which is equally terrifying of us finding something. It's right. So I say, like, I think that we very well may be just one giant science experiment. I 100%. There's a very good chance that's possible.
What if we're like the mold in like we're black mold in like Galactus's closet or something
in Lisa Simpson's bedroom,
which is 100% very possible. Like that's the weird part is that there's so much unknown that, like, I totally understand the idea of 100 years ago, people went on an adventure. They're like, I'm gonna go see I want to see the other side of the planet. You're like, yeah, that is a worthwhile endeavor of a journey to go on, right? And now it's like, no, I don't want to go for vacation to Australia. That's so far. I feel like I could get the same experience closer to home. I don't know, and you're like,
more about the money than anything else, but yeah.
But that's the thing that's the thing is you're like,
capitalist hellscape.
Yeah.
That 100% accurate. Like, I always told Victoria that I'm like, when we get to Greece, like, living in Greece is very economically sound for us. Like, it's the part is getting to Greece. That's the pain in the ass. Right. So, but even still, I remember we went to London to see her family, and then we went to Greece for our honeymoon. And we stayed in London for 3 days. And in Greece, in Athens, we were in a hotel for 8 days. I said, you pay for London, I'll pay for Greece. And she goes, deal. And I'm like, sucker. She ended up paying £900 for 3 days. Yep. And I'm like, I paid €300 for 10 days. And I'm like, it was not. And I got breakfast included. It was delicious.
Hell, even like, so Katie and I are going to Japan in December.
Wow.
Ooh, that's going to be fun.
That's a good one. Like living in Tokyo is like the average rent to live in like the center. Not even like, oh, I'm in like someone who says they live in LA, but they live in Palmdale. Get the fuck out of here. But like living in the center of Tokyo is like in US dollars about 800. And to put that in perspective, John, the average rent in LA is like anywhere between 1,500 to 3,000 a month.
Hey, they just cracked like $4,000 in Toronto where I am, which I'm like, that's mental.
Yeah, and then Katie responded with, yeah, but they only get like $20,000 a year. And I'm like, that's still about a third of their income compared to like half or more in other parts. So, like, I don't know.
I mean, it all depends, where your taxes are going, what services they're paying for, and if it's if it's livable or if it's living to paycheck to paycheck. I suppose every society is kind of relative in that way. Like, I mean, I remember going to Switzerland, and
I would love to go there. Yeah,
it was really cool, really expensive. So me and my wife went a couple of years ago, and our plan was we were able to get this cool apartment to stay in for fairly cheap, which was great, and it kind of gave us this false sense of security. Our plan was, look, we're gonna go there, we will just go to the supermarket and buy like food and cook ourselves. We're not gonna be eating out every night,
right?
Yeah.
And you know, and buy her own little snacks and it'll be fine. And she came back the first evening from the supermarket to pick up stuff that would probably be like about like 18-20 euro, and it was about 60-70 euros.
Oh.
And it was just like, oh. And then for the rest of the trip we were just like, I'm afraid to breathe.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
This is so expensive. The Swiss franc is very powerful. But this is the thing, for the people who are living there and earning Swiss francs.
Yeah, no problem.
That's the economy that they live in, which is fine. But if you're coming from elsewhere into it, you're just like,
yeah.
So we stopped. I remember I went to Greece. So Victoria was going for a course in London. So I went to London with her for the weekend, and then I bounced and I went to Greece for a couple weeks and then met her back in Canada. And when I did that, I was like, you know what? I stopped in Zurich and I was like, hey, they have my brand of cigarettes. So preemptively, I'm going to buy a carton. That way I have my cigarettes. So I bought it. It cost me 50 euros. And then they gave me francs back. And I'm like, that's weird. Whatever. Then I get to Greece and they're like, bro, you could get a carton just at the corner store, not even duty free, just the corner store for 30 or 40 euro. And I'm like, what is happening right now? I'm like, you guys are driving me crazy.
Rookie mistake.
So
Don't buy anything in Switzerland, especially when you're going to Greece.
And you know what? I remember I slept. This was the weirdest thing was I connected from to Paris. So I got a flight from Canada to Paris, was $300. $300 to go, $300 to come back. But then it was only $200 to go from Paris to Athens, but you would go through Zurich. And when you went through Zurich, though, you arrived like the last flight of the evening, and then you were the first flight out. So I had to sleep in the airport. Now, the cool thing was that they had a smoking room, so I could go have a cigarette all night long, and the ventilation was like so ridiculously good. Like you could just hang out in the smoking room. You didn't smell like smoke. Like,
I was just half imagining you there, like staring off into the middle distance, Albert Camus style, just like.
It's like a 1973 Virginia Slims advertisement.
100%. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, I scared the living shit out of the security guard like 6 times because I kept on moving, looking.
Shadow looming in the room, and they're like, "What is that?" Oh, it's Dino again. Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly. They're like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "I leave in the morning." They're like, "You're not supposed to stay here," and I'm like, "Where the fuck am I gonna go?" He's like,
"The bar."
I don't know. No, so that's the thing is everything left. So before they shut it down, I was like, "All right, I'm gonna get." I only had a couple bucks left, so I was like, "All right, I'll get a bottle of Diet Coke." And that way, just in case I could piss in it later if I had to, like, and then I was like, and just a cheese sandwich. And they're like, oh, that'll be 35 euros. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with this country? God, like, I lost my mind at that point because I'm like, it was also like the tail end of my trip. Like I was going home.
Yeah.
So, and
you're running on fumes.
This is what I try to explain to Victoria was I'm like, listen, going to vacation, we get cheap seats. Okay. Coming back, we try and get the nice seats with extra leg room and stuff. The reason being is nothing will ruin your entire vacation more than being uncomfortable for your flight home. Just 100% of the time, that is a factual existence.
Yeah, because the facade of, oh my God, like all the money you've spent has come crashing down. You might as well be comfortable.
I had a 9-month baby with me from Guadalajara to Dallas to Dublin. It was great fun.
How was that, by the way? How is being a dad?
It's great. I love it. Little dude is what is he now, like 15 months? I hate that. He's 23 months. He's nearly 2.
Yeah.
But no, he's so he's threatening to walk. He is but he's like so good at crawling, so good at climbing that he has yet to see the need to walk yet.
That's a real thing, though.
I love the idea of like, are you gonna walk? He pulls a knife on you. I will walk when I'm ready. Goddamn.
I know, right? Oh no, I'm in no rush. He'll walk when he's ready. He walks oh my god, like he's such a climber. He just scales things. He little climbs right up. But like, you know, it's so cool watching him too sometimes, because like, you know, he'll like climb up like vertical shelves, and you just see him like finding his little center of gravity. Like him, you know, his little 1-year-old proportions, like just this wee pudgy body. And you just see him finding his center of gravity and like lowering down his leg and reaching up but keep his body tight in. And it's just like amazing to watch him, you know. But he's so much fun. He's a real rough and tumble kid as well.
Nice.
So like, you know, you just like throw him onto the couch and he's like, you know, pick him up by the legs. He's like, hanging upside down. Throw him down onto the sofa. He's like, you know, either that or like he's traumatized and just laughing it off. But I assume not. He's a very happy child. So
I mean, listen, that's the thing is, I remember watching that is that for children, a lot of times like they are fast at crawling and they are still very mobile. And if anything, walking is risky, right? Like that's a risky move because they're like, oh, you could fall down and you're going to fall down a lot further and probably hurt yourself. Like, so it's a lot more. I think it may be even like jealousy related, right? Like, because you're like, well, everyone else is walking around, I want to be included.
Exactly. And you see him when he's with other kids kind of around his age and like they're his size.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, they can walk.
Yeah.
Right. So how are they doing that? Right. Okay. So they got the arms going as well.
Learning by FOMO.
Okay. You know, you just see him 100%. Analyzing it. It's just really fascinating.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like, as a younger sibling, part of the like the complex of being alive is you are a new character on season 5 of a TV show that's been
yeah.
Where you're just like, God damn it, everyone.
I'm the youngest of 3 kids. I know.
There you go. Yeah.
Youngest of 5. Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
My parents were already outnumbered a long time ago when I came around. They were like, just do whatever you want.
Like, like the other kids, go raise them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's the weird part is that like my sister tries to kind of like mom me and I'm like, that's not, no, thank you. Please stop. No, and she's like, oh, well, you know, I helped raise you. I'm like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You're my sister. Just
it's weird. Just don't be weird.
Although it is funny, like, you know, just already like seeing his little personality and like his interests already. Like, I mean, you know, his interests. It's whatever you put on for him, but like genuinely, his favorite movie so far very much seems to be The Sound of Music, which is adorable.
Nice.
You know, it's like just he loves music. He loves anything musical. And if there's ever a song or a musical number, he'll just stop. Like if it's on the TV, and he just stop and be like, just watching the dance, and he's boogieing. And every evening when I'm with him, we watch the Muppet Show, and like all of just old kind of variety show kind of stuff. And but like there was one where they had what was his name? Is a ballet dancer. He was phenomenal.
Gene Kelly, or
no, like proper. I think he was Russian originally. But he they were doing like possibly they were doing a Swan Lake, and Hugo had never seen ballet before, and he was just glued. He was just like, what is this? This is amazing. I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like, you know, and he's just fascinated. Like just seeing all that and just seeing his fascinations. As I always say, it's like I'm thoroughly looking forward to him telling me something that I didn't know. And I'm also both looking forward to and dreading the moment when he correctly corrects me.
I mean,
Yeah, where he's like, Dad, actually, that was. I'm like, oh God, no! Is that what I'm like? No.
That's the old version of history, old man.
Yeah.
That's it.
And then my wife would be like, "Oh God, this is getting out of hand. Now there are two of them."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God.
But yeah, so fatherhood is fun. It's exhausting, but it's
Oh,
fun.
yeah.
I love it.
I can
I
imagine.
love it. So that's good. Thankfully, you know,
Yeah.
it's not without its existential dread moments of what am I doing with my life and all of that. But like, you know, that's
No, but that was going to happen regardless.
In general, I'd be having existential crises with or without a child. So
Oh yeah, child, wife, doesn't matter. If
Especially
I
in
was
this day and
homeless,
age.
yeah, homeless, you'd still have the crisis. Doesn't make a difference. So
yeah. But I don't know. You know, that's all you need. But no. So it'll be interesting now. Like he's starting to talk. He's starting to kind of come up with words. So that's just great. Just every day there's something new. You know, it's so cool.
if he has questions about history, are you going to play him the video?
Oh yeah.
What are you going to like?
Allow me to refer to my extensive catalog.
Oh no, where's the fun in that? I'll explain it to him, and then then if he's into it, then I'll be like, I have a video of it if you want to watch it. Oh, you're still uncool, Dad. But I mean,
depends on how old he is.
Well, so okay, but I only learned this recently was that like you got until he's like 12 or 13 to have a fun time, right?
Yeah. Because then you're uncool.
Well, then he's a runaway train for adulthood, right? Like, so you kind of like, you just have to do the groundwork in the beginning. And then you're like, look, you hope for the best. There's going to be shenanigans. Hopefully the shenanigans won't be too shenanigans.
And hopefully you've prepared them as best you can.
Yeah.
Right. And then from there, you're just like, and then you can hope that they turn into an adult that you don't want to tell them to fuck off. Like, I think that's the
rule of thumb. Don't be a dick.
Right? Like, I feel like that's
I keep telling that to my students too, where like they'll be telling on each other. I'm like, look, I know that I'm the disciplinarian in the room, but don't throw your friends under the bus. It's never,
don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy. Don't be a snitch.
Because snitches get stitches.
Blackmail them so you can get a cut. That's how you do it.
Rats get bats.
Yeah. Hey, that's factual. See, that's the weird part is that like, especially in school, like it's the law of the jungle, right? Like people do crazy things, especially in high school.
I went to an all boys high school.
Oh my God.
Whoa.
Was there a neighboring girls' school? Like there was, eh?
Yeah.
So you would just
so like at lunchtime we would all descend on town and potentially meet up. But mostly it was, the girls are over there, and they're like, the boys are over there.
Of course.
But yeah.
Children are still children, I think. In a lot of the normal ways. Right?
Yeah.
It's and like so this week, for the last full week of school, with my seniors, I'm calling it the last lecture, and it's just all of the stuff that either doesn't come up in the curriculum or like doesn't really fit, but it's still things you want to know or skills you want to learn.
Yeah.
So I had like an ongoing like questionnaire board being like, all right, what are things you want to know about life that you haven't had the chance
I like
to?
that. That's a nice thing to do.
So things about like college, money, politics, relationships, stuff like that. So I will be working on that, or I'm working on that, and then when I come in this week, I'm gonna
get the question: how do I fix the world?
Yeah.
Well,
the question is,
join me for a 3-part symposium, and we're gonna go through everything. Hey, so have you already gotten the questions, Atlas, or
yeah, a good chunk of them.
Have you gotten any really weird ones?
I think one of them was like, how do you get into stand-up, which I'm pretty it came from the Suck Up Kid, so I'm pretty sure it was just them trying to be like, it's not for any points, so I'm not really doing that. I've already put their grades in.
You actually have a student that's a kiss ass?
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's always going to be one. I think.
There's always one.
Yeah.
At least.
It's fine. And then like other stuff was like what makes for a successful relationship. I'm like, a bunch of you haven't dated before. So it's good.
How do you respond to that?
Well, part of it, I'm going to say, like, you would, like, even if you have this knowledge going in, not everybody else does. Meaning that you just kind of have to suck it up until people get with the program.
Or communicate. Communication is key.
Yeah.
In any good relationship, particularly like a couple's relationship, communication is key.
Every single relationship, every relationship that you actually want to be productive,
yes,
it has to have good communication. Even I actually got into an argument with my wife about this. I'm like, we've been together for about 16 years now, and I'm like, if I give her certain looks, she has no idea what they mean, and I'm like, I have friends that I've known in a shorter period of time that already know what those looks mean. And I'm like, we sleep together, woman. What is happening? Why don't you?
Katie and I have a little key. Like, for example, if grab the person's hand, squeeze 3 times. I'm socially tired. I want to go home. Wrap it up.
No.
I don't even want that. Like, I don't even rely on like signals of just I'll look at you and go, hey, it's time to go. It's time to go. Why? It's time to go. We're leaving. That's it. It's happening,
Arm link, put a sock in it, drunkie.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's so funny, which is code for...
And then just being like, you need to stop.
Yeah. I think it's punishment because I don't adhere to those. Victoria's like, hey, you probably had enough to drink. And I'm like, that sounds like a dare.
Accepted.
Every single time. That's why she's like, oh, I don't even acknowledge your existence. And I'm like, that's how you do it. You ignore me. Ignore me and then tell me you love me and I'll just be fine. That's it. Very simple.
Oh, good Lord. I'm not really sure. Like, okay, so they gave us our lines for next year with like what classes you're going to teach. I'm going to have freshmen. What do I do about freshmen? I
explain to them that this is going to be a wild ride and going to count for this much of their existence. So if it gets too serious,
one of the other teachers told me that the worst part is first day of school up through winter break because they're still kind of 8th graders at that point.
Yeah.
And it gets better as like after that they come back and they're like officially high schoolers. Like the idea has soaked into their heads.
Yeah.
It's funny because in Ireland we don't have the junior and senior high. We just have everybody from age 12 to 18 all in the one big school.
Oh, so it's hormones from top to bottom. Oh, you're gonna have some weird shit happening.
So that is middle and high school. Like we have the middle school on like the same campus. It's over there across the yard.
Yeah, oh no, there's no segregation. You've got like big, like stubbly 6 feet, 17-year-olds rubbing shoulders with little tiny, terrified 12-year-olds with bags bigger than them.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's intimidating when you start, especially again when it's an all boys school. Very intimidating.
You know what? Yeah, that's much worse. And in an all boys school, like, because especially boys roughhouse, right?
Oh,
like, and also too, if you're 12,
if the baby is any example of what that's going to be, yes, boys roughhouse.
But this is the thing: is at 12 years old, you're old enough to have a smart mouth, right? Like. That's you're of an age where if somebody says something, you might have something to quip back, and that's going to result in somebody putting your head in the wall, right? And you're
the classic in my school was the chicken walk, where if all the guys were like lined up on either side of the corridor waiting to get into class, and someone then had to walk up through the middle of the corridor. And if the atmosphere went in that direction, they'd kick the shins off you or like shove you back and forth like a pinball.
This is 100%. Giving me anxiety for things that it would have happened like 15 years ago or more at this point.
Or like, or in the lead up to Halloween, there would be occasional fireworks where they would take fireworks, like a screamer, strap it to a carton of milk, and throw it down the corridor. And
oh my god!
Yeah, fun times.
We had.
How does that work? You step out of the bathroom, light the fuse, and then throw it like a football, and then it just kind of.
Oh yeah. Just don't get in its way.
Basically.
Yeah, no, that like there was a lot of because the funny thing is too, because so in the Republic of Ireland, fireworks are completely illegal.
Okay, full, not even for special holidays or anything.
No,
nothing?
Completely illegal. Ooh. However, in Northern Ireland, which is part of the UK, it's fair game. So you could just like literally just hop over the border, buy it over there, and then bring them back, and that's what loads of people did and still do. Like when we were like 14, 15, there was, if there's anyone listening of that age or younger or whoever, like, this is very irresponsible and I do not recommend any of this. This is terrible.
Students of Mr. Novak, you heard him.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is
hey, this is not good. Someone might lose a finger, but it may be cool.
Like, this is the thing. Like, I am shocked that I did not witness more carnage. But like, some of the lads would be, they'd get like a packet of screamers and like break off the launch wood and just have the little canister and light it and throw it, and then whatever direction it went, who's to know? Or like we would all be like, hanging about, and then one guy, you just gotta look over and see him like running, and you're like, what? And then you look down, you just see the fuse, and then everyone spreads because again, you don't know what direction it's going.
No. We would have the ones that would like it would have it would shoot out from the side, so it would start spinning. But if you placed it right, it would just start spinning upwards and it would go up. So the problem was we did it so well, we got it onto the roof of our motel. That is super fucking dangerous.
It's fucking flammable.
Super fucking flammable. So we had to boost one of the guys up and he had to start stamping it. And they're like, is somebody on the roof? We're like, nope, no, they're not. Like, do it quick and let's get the fuck out of here. Yeah. I was in Florida on vacation. It was a wild time. But
oh boy.
That's, what? Like, this is the thing, is I feel like teaching the youth how to be capable and critically see things in weird situations is key to, like, whether their adolescents are going to be, hey, you're going to have some cool stories, or hey, remember that time that guy died? Which you're like, that is not a fun story.
That's the Stand By Me.
Yeah. That's and you do not want like life is hard. Like, I tried to explain this to somebody where I'm like, life is hard.
Yeah.
As it is, you can have a perfect life. It will be hard. Okay. So it's like when you are a pain in people's ass. Yeah. People don't want to deal with it. You know why? Because life is already hard. I don't need extra hard. And they're like, yeah, I want it on easy mode. If anything, make it easier for me. Right? Tell you. And we're back at, hey, no, let's make things more complicated. Perfect. Let's do that.
It's not society unless it's more moving pieces.
Moving pieces. No, I don't like it.
Although I gotta say, now that because I saw the notification for the 7-hour Manny Mendez history, and I figured, I'm like, oh, he just kind of put them all together in chronological order. I think I need to watch it.
I'm excited about that.
Yes, and like what's really cool about it is that like different videos actually started interacting with each other, which is really cool. Like, something happens in my Israel and Palestine video. That then ends up setting up something from the Monarchs of England video. Like, there's a whole bit where so like the first half of my Israel Palestine video, covers a lot of like the history of European anti-Semitism, which was horrendous. But a big part of it was how kind of in the earlier centuries, how some Jewish communities ended up in money lending because Christians weren't allowed to lend money for interest. But in the 1300s, the Christians worked out how to do it with so basically they didn't lend money with interest, but what they did, they loaned money, but insisted that you insured the loan. And the Catholic Church was like, yeah, that's fine, actually. And they're like,
yeah,
yes. And so then certain Jewish communities were then surplus to requirement, and a whole pile of exoduses, not freaking pogroms happened. Anyway, but then, so that happens in my Israel-Palestine video. But then in like the 1340s, in the early years of the 100 Years' War, we've got Edward III of England, who's now defaulting on his loans from a family in Florence who loaned them all a whole pile of money, but they're now bankrupt because the King of England is like, yeah, no, I'm not paying that back. And they're like, oh, this money lending's hard, actually.
Listen,
yeah.
God, you know what? It makes you wonder how much of society is really necessary when the fact is they're like, oh, so half of it is all about just baloney, costing baloney, and people just doing shenanigans. And you're like, yeah, that's basically pretty much all of history. And and it's basically the good parts are when people get caught doing their shenanigans, or when people are like, haha, I foiled your shenanigans. You're like, oh, those are fun. Those are fun ones, you know.
Good old shenanigans.
I think the lesson to be learned from this is go watch the 7-hour-long Many Man Does History, like, because there's also recently I've been like using put a YouTube video on, like a video essay on to sleep.
Yeah.
That'll be good for that.
You saying that I'm boring? Are you saying
no.
I'm saying that your voice is
not what you're saying.
No, I'm saying that your voice is absolutely musical.
100%. I'm gonna go one further. I feel like I could probably take mushrooms and then just start it.
Oh, that'll be a trip.
And then just watch history happen.
That's a journey.
I mean, right? Like realistically, how interactive is this experience going to be? And I'm telling you, it's going to be very.
Well, also most of the Manny Man videos are very like paused because you have like little quick things coming in and out. So I gotta be like, okay, what does it say there?
Which realistically, that means they might suddenly become animated, and that might be an interesting experience. You know?
Yeah, you're like, was he supposed to move? Or
like, he's moving now. That's just how it's going to be.
I mean, full disclosure, because like it is as lighthearted as possible, but it does occasionally get dark because it's so within that you've got again Israel-Palestine. So and that pretty much goes all the way up to horror that is happening today, which is horrendous.
By the way, I watched that video and you did a fantastic job. How are you doing after that video?
So that was a journey in itself. So that video, the history of Israel and Palestine, took me about 5 months to create. I spent about a month writing the script, and it came very much off the back. So I started writing it in November, so it was only just a month of all of the horror going on of Israel already then decimating Gaza, and just hearing all of these talking points, hearing all of these descriptions and very shallow descriptions of history, and I was just like, I want to hopefully give some more context to people in a relatively accessible way. And hopefully that, and it is, I always try to make sure that my videos are relatively child friendly. So I do kind of keep that in mind as well. Like I usually kind of aim my videos somewhere between kind of 8 and 10 plus, if possible. But this video I went like all the way back to like 3000 BC and traced the evolution of the region of Palestine all the way through the ages, and again and looking at the some of the migrations of Jewish communities across Europe and how those Jewish communities ultimately came to in the 1880s, and with the background of the kind of whole settler colonialism that was going on in the world throughout the 19th century. So, and while working on all of that, I listened to the entire Bible, the entire Quran, and it was, that in itself was an eye-opening experience. Because I mean, I grew up Catholic, and and so Catholics don't really read the Bible. Catholics are told what the stories are by the priests.
That's 100%. Yeah.
This is the story. We'll read this little story at mass, but it's not about hashtag go do your own research. That's not the Catholic Church is very much prescriptive, going this is what you should do. So 100%. It was really interesting and very eye-opening, and quite disturbing in a lot of ways, if I'm very honest.
Super disturbing. No, there's super disturbing shit in the Bible.
Like going through the book of Numbers and book of Deuteronomy, where like it literally says, where God's sitting there going, see all those people who are like living in Canaan right now, they're not my promised people, so you can go in and totally massacre them. And it's just like, oh, that explains a lot.
You're doing it for me.
And don't let them live alongside you, for they will be thorns in your eyes. And it's just like, oh, this makes so much sense. And then book of Joshua, they go and do it. And it's just like...
2 questions. One, who was the person reading the audiobook for the Bible? Because I feel like your experience would differ based on who it is.
Yeah, that's true. No, I don't actually know who this guy was. His voice was just wonderful, though. It was kind of funny. It was an American guy who was trying to do an English accent, and throughout most of the book of Genesis, he was pretty good. But like as it went on, it just kind of dropped more and more. But he just had this wonderful kind of rhythm, particularly in the bits that were really, really, really repetitive. But the phrase that just jumped out more and more, particularly during the Pentateuch, was it will be made as a burnt sacrifice for sweet savor unto the Lord. And like each time, and then you will do this and do this, and it will be made as a burnt sacrifice for sweet savor unto the Lord. And like every single time, I was just like, there was just a rhythm to it. Whereas like if I had James Earl Jones reading it, I'm not sure it would actually. I kind of preferred having this dude who was half doing an English accent, but not as good. No, like it was really interesting hearing it all and hearing it in the order of what it is in the Bible, and kind of because while I was working on that, I was literally doing the kind of historical aspects of it, the Babylonian exile and all of that. So I was just kind of hearing the kind of context and hearing the mythological origins and all of that kind of stuff. So it was just really fascinating hearing it. And the thing that I found really cool was like just hearing the stories in context, because you hear, the story of Jonah, the story of Zacchaeus, the story, all these different stories, the story of Samson, all these stories, but hearing them in the context of the bigger picture, you're like, I know this story.
Isn't like a good chunk of like the different books of the Bible were meant to appeal to people of different religions? Like this one's for the Muslims, this one's for the Jews. Like
so quite well. I mean, there were no Muslims when the Bible was.
Oh right, that's after.
But there is certainly an aspect of that with, as far as I know, with 2 of the Gospels. So within the Gospels, only 2 out of the 4 Gospels have the nativity story of the birth of Jesus. Most of them, the other 2 just kind of jump straight into Jesus was a dude going around telling people all the good news. It was great.
Yeah, we don't get an awkward teenage Jesus. It's baby
No,
Jesus.
there are no awkward Jesus stories.
Skip that bit. But one of the stories, so the story that people generally know of the nativity is an amalgamation of these 2 stories. But when you see these 2 stories separately, they're 2 very different stories separately. Where one is, they're chilling in Bethlehem already. They didn't travel to Bethlehem; they're in Bethlehem, and the angel Gabriel tells Mary, "Hey, you're gonna have a baby. It's a bit of a shock.
You're pregnant." Yeah,
boing. And she's
That's
like,
the
"Oh,
episode
right."
title. It has to be.
And so then, no room at the end. They have the baby, and then a bunch of angels show up and say to a whole pile of shepherds, "Hey, there's a wee dude down in here. You should go down and say hi." And they go down and say hi, and they're like, "Wow, you're bringing all of your sheep in here. This is lovely." And it's this, kind of nice, chill, peaceful story. And the idea of what many theologians are, this was the kind of peaceful story to appeal to non-Jewish people of just go, "Oh, this is a nice little story." Whereas the other story is not Mary. Joseph gets the dream from Gabriel saying, "Hey, that little teenage girl is pregnant and you'd be doing her the right thing to go and marry her. And so ask no more questions, please." So here you've got Joseph getting a dream very similar to an Old Testament Joseph who got dreams. And then they go to Bethlehem because Joseph was a descendant of David, according to this story. And the Messiah was said to be of the house of David, even though Jesus wasn't Joseph's son. But that's the whole other, you've got 2 entirely contradictory family trees. But then you've got
2 family trees are in different books of the Bible, and you read through it and you're just going, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out.
Swap notes, guys.
No.
But then this one is also the one where King Herod you've got the 3 wise men who follow the star, and then King Herod is in power, and he orders all of the children to be murdered, and so Mary and Joseph and newborn Jesus have to flee to Egypt, which is very similar to the Pharaoh ordering all of the babies killed, where Moses escapes from Egypt. And so basically there's all of these parallels with Old Testament stories in this version that many theologians believe was to appeal to Jewish people. As it goes, it's a continuation of this story. So it is fascinating kind of seeing those 2 stories told separately. But yeah, no, like it was really cool. And then listening to a translation of the Quran as well was really fascinating, because it I had to say one of the things that struck me, given the reputation that it tends to have, well, particularly within the Western world, it's so misogynistic. It's like, dude, the Bible is horrendously misogynistic. Also, God is just this, "Oh, I'm a jealous God, and you must believe in me. I'm be believing in anybody. You're not
only me."
John's queer-coded gay villain God is the God I want to believe in.
Oh, he so is though. Like he so is. He's just like
Happy Pride, everyone.
He literally says, "I am a jealous God." And I mean, whether or not he says it like that depends on what way you want to interpret it. But that's the way I took it.
Probably.
It's like you've all been worshiping Bathsheba or whatever his name is, and I felt really bad for that. So I'm gonna burn your temple and have the Babylonians capture you for 500 years. So
be gay, do crime.
So there.
I'm gay,
and also you were eating pigs. So
yeah.
But whereas I find then there's an entire chapter in the Quran which explains how you if you're looking to divorce your wife, there's like a 3-month grace period where if she ends up being pregnant in that kind of 3 months, you're not allowed to just leave her high and dry.
Okay.
And like it was basically this whole chapter kind of outlining kind of
child support.
Yeah, like positive guarantees for protecting women and not kind of leaving them high and dry in the event of divorce, which I was like, this is a surprisingly kind of forward thinking document from like the 5th or 7th century. And it's just like, I mean, yeah, fair enough. You've got the death to infidel stuff as well, but like, I mean, in the same way as you've got all that stuff in the Bible as well. It's like plenty of people pick and choose the bits where they're like, okay, that's a bit extreme. Oh, but that's the bit that I'm going to go for. And for the most part, I find the Quran really just chill and like, and what is it for God is often forgiving, most rewarding, or something to that effect. I was like, that's really nice. Like, like there was a nice, like it felt like it was really interesting hearing it straight after listening to the Bible, because it does feel like, because it's intended as a continuation, and a new interpretation, which I thought was really interesting and really helped shape more of an understanding of the wonderful world that we live in, where you got loads of people going, my God's better than your God. I said, dude, your God's the same dude.
Yeah.
Like you're arguing over the same thing.
Well, this is one of the arguments that I've had with many people, where you're going, listen, if you look at like ancient history and stuff, you're like, you find a lot of similarities with ancient Egypt, and you have ancient Greece, and you have the Sumerian gods, and you have all these things, and you're going, listen, now I feel like on some level there is also the goodness of I guess the anecdotal part of the Bible, where you're going, there's a lot of good moral coding that is in there that's good. Some things are a little insane, but there's
great.
Yeah, there's certain
daughters get their dad drunk and have sex with them. Maybe not so great.
I mean, there is the Southern United States, and that they do that there. That's fine, but it's maybe not for everybody, But that's the thing, is you're going like, hey, like there are certain things that are beneficial, but I'm like, listen, the idea of like, look, in the Muslim faith, there's a lot of fasting. That's a good thing to practice for your health. I do it regularly. It helped me lose half of my body weight. It's amazing. Like, these are all like, there are benefits in a lot of religious beliefs that you're like, you don't necessarily have to be cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs to just, hey, I'm just going to try and be a better person.
But I mean, to be honest, like that does kind of go back to what I was saying earlier on, is like, if you want an idea to stick, get it into superstition.
Yeah.
And in the same way as, like, you take Leviticus, which is quite often, one that's where people are calling up going, oh, well, that's where all the big mad rules are. And like, there's an entire chapter about how saying women are unclean when they're on their period and stuff. And like, there's all these things
still accurate to this day. That's all.
Well, if the spot is red around the edges, then try and pop it and see if it bleeds or if it's got pus. And so, but a lot of that, it just, like, a lot of Leviticus in particular felt like just a lot of this kind of ancient world self-care tips that they decided to codify into this book to go, look, God said it, so you all have to do it. Wash your hands, for God's sake. Literally, for God's sake. And but the really funny thing, the really funny image that I got of it though, is that basically all of Leviticus is like Moses listening to God going through all of these rules, and I just have this image of Moses just sitting there going, Oh God, he's talking about the gays now. Oh God, and God's sitting there up, go. And then I want you to do this, and you are only allowed to walk a certain amount of distance on these days, and on those days, I want you to cover your head only partially and walk clockwise. And Moses is like, yeah, no, okay.
I'm smashing one of these tablets when I get down the mountain.
Yeah, they're literally going to get bored and build a golden calf down there. You're taking so long. Come on, seriously.
Look, that's the wild part of that. Like a lot of people believe that to be history, and you're going, bro, that's a lot. That's a lot of history to experience. And I'll tell you, I'm Greek. I too have a lot of wild shit in my history, people. And listen, the more recent history, still fucking wild. Just less, unicorn, more just batshit crazy. So, it's history just keeps on getting crazier. That's just how it is.
Do you know why unicorn horns look the way they do?
Why?
Because we all know unicorns have that wonderful spirally horn. Yeah. What animal has that type of horn in real life?
The narwhal.
The narwhal. Well, Vikings would hunt narwhals up in the cold depths of the Arctic. And of course, nobody but the Vikings had been up there. So they show up to European markets going, we got unicorn horns. And people are like, oh my God, I'll take 10.
Yeah.
And
Viking expansion was like freaking wild. That's the whole reason that like the word Russian comes from, Kiev and Rus, right? And like,
no? Explain more, sorry.
Okay, so like over a 500-year period, you had people from, Northern Europe and all that expanding into things like Normandy in France, Eastern Europe, all these other places. It's where you get like Saint Olga of Kiev as a saint in Orthodox, like that's from all that, like just this long expansion.
Yeah, it was what was his name? Something of Novgorod, who came south, like Oleg or something. Yeah, basically he was a Norseman who had come from kind of the Baltic coast that had come and kind of captured Kiev and became kind of one of the early founders of Kiev and Rus.
Yeah. So just like all like that diaspora of peoples into European history.
Yeah.
Over that period.
It's amazing. Actually, the Vikings came here and all. And
you guys too, yeah. And
big time.
Hey man,
the Vikings essentially established most of Ireland's major ports, like Dublin.
Oh, really?
Huh. Yeah, Dublin, Cork, Limerick. They were all Waterford. They were all set up by the Vikings, possibly Belfast as well. But yeah, like Dublin in particular, it was a Viking settlement.
Well, they found Viking settlements in Canada as well. And the United States.
Yeah. Leif Erikson,
but that's the thing is there's wild shit in history, and especially like if you read up on stuff about like Egyptian history and stuff, you're like, hey, there's wild stuff. And even remember, there'd be more mummies to see in museums if the English didn't eat them like jerky. That's real history, people.
No way, I didn't know that.
They'd have a party and eat a mummy, and you're like, bro, that's a person. You're like, you can't. What the fuck is wrong with you guys?
That's like, there were. It took like over 100 years from the discovery of the giant tortoises of the Galapagos. It took like 100 years or something. In order for a living specimen to make it back to the UK.
Apparently they're fucking delicious. They're delicious.
And they're also like a really good source of fresh water. Like they store fresh water inside.
Yeah. I find that absolutely like just hilarious that people are just like, we keep on trying to bring them home, but they're just so good that we couldn't hold back. You're like, what kind of madness? Like, how good do these things taste? Like, I have questions.
You're out in the ocean. You're like, oh, lads, I've got another 2 weeks.
I don't know.
Harry over there is just looking way too tasty.
This is how I know that, like, I've had a fun episode on this show, is me not looking at the timestamp. And I'm like, oh my God, we've been at this an hour and a half. I ate a mummy the other night. Don't worry, she was a single. Jesus Christ. Well, okay. John, thank you so much for coming on Generation Dan once again.
A pleasure as always, gentlemen.
Where can people follow you and all that good stuff?
You can find me on YouTube, on Twitter. Well, Twitter. X.
It's Twitter. Keep calling it. Keep dead naming Twitter.
Threads. I'm on Threads, yo. And Instagram. Basically, at John D. Ruddy on all of the major things. But most importantly, patreon.com/John D. Ruddy if you want to support my work, because I really, really need it.
Hey, John, do you do any of those cameos? You should do that to record messages to people.
Yeah, I should do that. That'd be good.
But you have a very robust voice. It's a very it presents very well. So it only makes sense. You could just sing poetry and shit.
And I also do voices. So
listen, you're sitting in front of a TARDIS. Was anyone surprised that you do voices? No, come on.
Yeah, this is true.
Let's be reasonable, sir. Be reasonable.
It's actually a TARDIS.
Is it?
It's actually a TARDIS.
I hate you so much.
That's amazing.
I hate you so much.
And I'm slowly but surely decorating the walls. So that's the Akira Kaneda bike slide.
Oh yeah, the weird sideways.
That's Trogdor the Burninator.
Yes, dude. Homestar Runner is like a third of my sense of humor.
Homestar Runner is the joy, really. Trogdor the Burninator.
Yeah, I think this show will have reached an apex for me when I somehow track down and get one of the brothers chaps on here, which will never happen. But maybe someday.
Maybe they're watching right now and they'll send you an emails after.
Yeah.
You never know. People want to do
things. Than snail mail. Send you a message.
Yeah. I call it snail mail too. Did they come up with that, or is that just a thing?
I don't know.
Because I've said snail mail to other people and they're like, what? I'm like mail.
I think as soon as emails started becoming something that people actually used, it immediately became referred to as snail mail. So I don't know if you could attribute it to them, but
okay.
Yeah, no, because well, and also too, everyone hates the mail. It's the weirdest thing.
The mail.
The mail is a fun experience, but
I loved getting an envelope and
seeing
my name on it and opening it up and going, "What is it?" Oh, it's a fucking bell.
Now, if you play trading card games, the mail is your friend because you're like, "Oh yes, the thing I ordered 8 days ago on TCG Player is here."
Yeah, the only card game that I play, I think I possibly was talking to you about this the last time, is Marvel Snap.
Yeah. But that's not physical, right?
I know it's not physical.
Yeah.
But it's addictive though.
It's your imagination though, which is basically physical. Sorry, that's real life.
Anyway, at Generation Dan in all the places. You can also, if you're listening to this on our RSS feed, you also get Last Minute History, which is the history show with me and a friend of the show, Cole Clayton.
Yeah.
Every 2 weeks, we just did an episode on the California Gold Rush, which is what every kid in California has to learn about when they're in 4th grade.
1849, yo.
Yep. So I taught him that. And then our next episode coming up next week is about Texas history, where he's from.
Nice.
So that'll be a good time.
I feel like your version of Texas history isn't going to be as nice as.
Well, he's the one doing the Texas history.
Is he doing it?
Yeah, normally I'm the one who has to do the researching and telling the story, but I'm like, you do it this time. So
I was in Texas in January. It was great.
Was before.
I've never been to Texas.
It's hot and sweaty and gross, and I hate it.
Not in January.
Fair enough.
I mean, I used to be 500 pounds. That was just life in the summer.
All the time. Right. Yeah. Where can they find you, Dino?
You're right here. Dino, the genetic marvel. If you can't just search for me, we're not going to be friends. Is that simple? I need you to do that much. I'll make you laugh. So just follow me. And also, I'll just show you pictures of food and weird shit that I made 2 flower beds in my backyard yesterday, all from like I bought the stuff and then we did the lining and it was me and my wife. It was just a great experience and took a bunch of pictures. It was cool. And now I'm building like a whole archway and I'm I'm growing vegetables. So it's going to be tomatoes, cucumbers, eggplants, zucchinis, and I think we're doing berries and onions and stuff. I don't know.
Cool. I want pictures when that's
we're like real people. It's very peculiar, but
nice.
We try. Yeah, like, share, and subscribe, everyone.
You should show your son Singing in the Rain if you haven't already. I feel like he'd like that.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
I showed it to my kids, and like a lot of them who are not paying attention are like, "This is good." I'm like,
yeah. I've only seen it once actually, so
that's good.
Yeah.
At Atlas Novak, all the places, you know all the stuff. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.